ወደ መድረኩ ልመልስና አንድ ሶስት ጥያቄዎች ልቀበል ከዛ ደግሞ እነሱ መልሰን እንደሚቀጥለው ያለን ዛክ ምናልባት ኦንላይን ላይ ያሉ ሰዎች ጥያቄ ካለ they can even type your questions and then we'll try to address all of them. ሶስት ጥያቄዎች number 1 hold to it. Number 2 another person. Number 3
Thank you. My name is Kifiya. I'm a business development by profession. ሁለት ጥያቄ ነው ያለኝ ግን አጠራጣራለሁ ናቸው ሶ የመጀመሪያው so መላ ፔመንት አለ ቼ ሎጂስቲክስ አለና ሸካ አለ እና በስራቸው ኦቨርኦል so 9-10ኛ ክፍል ፕሮዳክት ነው so won't it be difficult 10 different brands are interconnected ናቸው ግን in a 1 year timeline or 2 years beyond by launch ማድረግ አይከብድም because focus ለማድረግ the overall company even if it has its own team as an overall company like vision goals or achieve ማድረግ ያለበት setting ይደረጋል so ባንዴ ሁሉ ነገር ሪሊዝ ማድረግ wanted ሁሉ ነገር ቪዥኑን አይመታትም ነው ወይ so is it what's your strategy regarding that ሁለተኛው ደግሞ so Kifiya is growing big growing bigger based on currently ባለውና do you plan on opening a VC fund under Kifiya like እናንተ ያላችሁበት ecosystem ላይ focus ለሚያደርጉ startups because as you said partnership is key so interconnected even በእናንተ ጋር እየተደረጉ ለእናንተ support የሚያደርጉ as well as the ecosystem የሚያደርጉ fund ለማድረግ do you plan on creating
okay good just to level set Shaga Mela what was the third product you mentioned Che first Kifiya product እና portfolio ላይኖች ናቸው just level set እሺ ሳምንት
ሰላም ሲኒየር ተማሪ creative hubs my question is actually from the perspective of context the ecosystem ብዙ ጊዜ የሚደረገው diasporaዎች communities and especially the digital platform even ሌሎች አፕሊኬሽኖች ቢሆን the economics makeup is either the Anglo or the British or the French version. የሆነ ቀመር ያዛልና ወደ ኢትዮጵያ ሄደ ሲመጣ ይሄን እውቀትና ይሄን አስተሳሰብ የሚይዘው የሚይዘው ሰዎች to what extent contextualize አድርገው or to what extent contextualize መደረግ አለበት አንድ ሁለት ያው እንደ መንግስት ambitious መሆን ግን practically ግን ፋዚዮ ከደረጃቸው ጥያቄዎች digital 2025 የመሳሰሉት ነገሮች በብዛት ተጠቃሚ የሆኑ ዲጂታል ቴክኖሎጂ urban center ዱዌሎች እና ከነሱ እስከ 50 እስከ 60 ኪሎ ሜትር ላይ ያሉ active in practicality with context into consideration how do you see the digital the concept of digitalization roll out?
Okay. سمعنا لم سرعت نبغى.
organize one of the Zara responsible to provide money as regarding
someone here.
I think Chris.
That's not it anyway.
You know, it's a perspective. So one of the things about digital is scale. So scale actually the chance of success you keep struggling. The result and there is very little evidence anywhere in Africa that for a period of time the digital company which is a myth. It's the hope of that scale center exponentially until now. So you can achieve scale in different forms. So you can achieve scale on a vertical. Yeah, vertical significant transaction or services ካለው ወይ ጉድስ ኤክስቼንጅ ኦፍ ጉድስ ካለው ፖቴንሻል አለ and that ብዙ ጊዜ ዴቨሎፕ ኔሽንስ ውስጥ ነው የምታያቸው ዴቨሎፒንግ ኔሽንስ ውስጥ ቨርቲካል ላይ ስኬል ማግኘት በጣም ከባድ ነው and I cannot remember any country that has demonstrated a case study so in many countries what cuts it throughout is the digital nature that the digital enabled services መሆኑ and ቅድም እንዳልኩ ዞሮ ወደ ፔመንት መምጣቱ አንድ አድርጓል so maybe በስም ይለያያሉ but at the end of the day you are doing two things you are exchanging goods or exchanging services which are transactions that you run on a digital platform use caseዎቹ ወይ ፕሮዳክቶቹ ናቸው ስም የሚሆኑት የተለያዩ ነገር የሚያስመስላቸው so if you think digitally and you go to the binary state all our transactions this is how it manifests in terms of the product transaction so I don't see the challenge of timeline exists I've been working on it for the last 5 years so timeline has checked the ecosystem build has checked timeline has checked technology up and down has checked but these are I think what digital companies go through እንጂ አይነጣጠሉም ወይንም አይጋጩም ወደ ቫሊዩ in many countries if you think of it digitally in terms of the second question which is very quite interesting is I think there's a space in Ethiopia to play that part whether we play it or another company plays it I don't know again one of the things that's lacking in the market just like ሀቦች እንደሌሉ እነዚህ ብዙ ጊዜ ኢኖቬት የሚያደርጉት ሁለት ሶስት ነገር ቻሌንጅ ይሆናሉ under venture capital capital is one of it in many countries you reuse tools ለምሳሌ አንድ ሰው ዴቨሎፕ አድርጋለሁ ካለ DevOps environment create ማድረግ የለበትም እሱ ራሱ in many countries you have AWS so ecosystem ውስጥ ማስገባት መቻል የሚችሉ ኩባንያዎች መኖር አለባቸው ሶስተኛው ሪሶርሶች it can be adjacent resources ብዙ ጊዜ ኔትወርኮች ካያቸው ቴክ ናቸው and that everybody is tech and very sorry to say this successful but በጣም you have to have the person that understands the business you have to have the person who understands the administration so VC ካየው እነዚህ ሶስት ነገሮች መጫወት ይችላል ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ያ ደግሞ ከሌለ የምትፈልገው speed of innovators so there's a space for it I think it's to be seen who or multiple companies are going to do it and then I'll pass that question when it comes to Kifiya Saminas I think contextuality is key if you see contextuality in many countries between success and failure mostly contextuality I was not clear diaspora or I think a good example is orbit right but you have to understand contextuality I agree with you slightly and I think it's a matter of whichever background you come from would you take the time to understand the context and what's required to address that context. I think what diasporas bring to the market is exposure. Exposure. So you are either exposed at school level, you are exposed at work level, you are exposed at markets. So I think the biggest value if you go to Kenya 99.9% of the innovation happens from people that have been either to Silicon Valley or around it right so exposure is very key to innovate is it ambitious for digital Ethiopia I mean digital is ambitious by itself if you see it throughout history without that being ambitious የትም ቦታ ሄዱ ነበር ዲጂታል ለምን ማይታይ ነገር ነው ማይዳሰስ ነገር ነው ለብዙ ጊዜ ምርቅ ነገር ነው አይደል አሁን ቅድም ክሪፕቶከረንሲ ያለው for a lot of people except that guy crypto is very far away right So ambitious ግዴታ ነው. And I think that ambition eventually will lead us to results. Timeline ላይ ትንሽ ወደፊት ወደኋላ ልንል እንችላለን, ግን would reach it without a doubt. If you look at data calc, I think we need to differentiate between what is primary data, KYC, when customer data, and metadata. ብዙ ጊዜ እነዚህ credit scoring ለመስራት ከፈለግ rating ለመስራት ከፈለግ you don't need primary data. You need metadata. You don't need the customer's name, you don't need the customer's address. And then metadata የምፈልግበት መንገድ ብዙ መንገድ አለ. አሁን ለምሳሌ Facebook data ከፈለግ Facebook sells you that data at a data level does not sell to you. የፓዚዮን አይሸጥልህም, ግን የፓዚዮን ፕሮቫይደሮች የሚመስሉ ሰዎች ምን አላቸው የሚለውን ይሰጥልህ ይችላል. So it's really about what you do with metadata using AI tools. እነዚህ machine learning or deep learning የምትላቸው ቱልሶች ከዛ ቀጥሎ እነዚህ ሜታዴታዎችን ምን አይነት አልጎሪትሞች ቢልድ ብታደርግባቸው ነው into some sensible measurement of risk የሚያመጣል. So ሁለቱም ብናየው ጥሩ ነው. ባንኮች ብዙ ጊዜ primary data ነው ያላቸው, which is very strong by the way, organized character. ግን to score, you don't need primary data. It strengthens your scoring, but you don't need it.
I think when it comes to data and ሀገራችን አንድ አሁን ለምሳሌ COVID is a good example አይደል? early on ትልቁ የነበረው ቻሌንጅ ስንት ሰው ተይዟል? ማን ነው የተያዘው? ያ ሰው የት ነው ያለው? ከማን ጋር ነው የሚኖረው? Without knowing his personal information, ስሙን፣ birthday, ይሄ personal identifiable information ከምንለው ውጪ ማለት ነው። ግን ያን ማወቅ ከቻልክ core የምንላቸው ግዴታዎች you can actually contain the spread. ኮሌራ የቱ ጋር ተነሳ? ስንት ሰው የት በልቷል? መቼ ነበር የበላው? ሬስቶራንት ስንት ሬስቶራንቶች ናቸው? እነሱ ከየት ነው የገዙት ምግብ ወይም ደግሞ raw material? You can actually, the more you learn without even getting into personal information, you can actually contain or come up with some kind of algorithm that will help you contain it. Data, I think related to the next currency. So that's when you try the stations slow and we can not touch it. Okay, let us source the Yankee. And okay. You guys are all good. So fintech no. Okay, በእናንተ ጀምርና ሌሎቻችሁ እሺ ከሆነ ስምህን ንገረንና ከየት እንደመጣ።
ቴዎድሮስ አልከብር ይባላል። ከዚህ በፊት አዲስ አበባ ላይ የአድራሻ የሚባል አፕሊኬሽን የሚሰሩ ነበር። just like Google Maps, GPS location. Now, the biggest problem we had, and we had to shut down, is because the government decides every 10 months or something they could change their rules and start to compete with us, or they'll say we'll do it ourselves. We shouldn't do it. The biggest problem that I'm seeing here is you guys have competing government agencies that are constantly looking to do the same thing that private sectors are doing. So what are you guys going to do when Tele decides, hey, you're going to do credit monitoring at the same time because we can partner with the commercial bank or the others, and then how often are you willing to lose money until Tele or someone or government agency decides to do the same thing?
Okay. All right.
ከተመልካች ድረስም
እሺ ጮክለን ማን ነው ጠያቂው?
ስሙ ለጊዜ የለንም። ከክፍያ ቀጣይ ምን እንጠብቅ? ኢቨን ዶክተር ሙኒር ምን እንጠብቅ?
ክፍያ ምን እንጠብቅ ወይም ከሙኒር ምን እንጠብቅ? እሺ alright ለዚህ አድሬስ እናድርግና
I think የአድራሻን በትክክል ተረዳሁት። ሁሌ የምንወሰን ይኖራል ሬጉላቶሪ ፍሬምወርኮች ምንድን ናቸው? አንደኛው የኢኖቬተሩ ሁሌ ዳይላማ የሚመጣው ምንድን ነው? የሬጉላቶሪ ፍሬምወርኮችን የመረዳት እይታ ነው። ቅድም እንዳልኩት if there were hubs that could help innovators like you understand what regulatory framework allows you to operate. you see different countries have different regulatory frameworks. አሁን እኛ ሀገር እንኳን ኢኮሜርስ የተፈቀደው አንድ ዓመት አይሞላውም፣ አንድ ዓመት ተኩል። ዲጂታል ፔመንት ከተፈቀደ 6 ወር ወር 7 ወር ነው። So if you look at, there's a lot of change in the regulatory framework over the past 2 years. A lot of laws are coming out. So ሁሌም ኢኖቬተሮች መጠበቅ ያለብን ሁላችንም ዘርፍ ላይ የሚሰራ ሰዎች what are the regulatory frameworks that allow you to exist? Grace, my advice to you is keep away from it. Because it's always, at the end of the day, regulatory framework, America here, Europe here, Italy here, but that's wrong. So if you look at India, only allowed certain sectors to operate over the past 5 years. China, the same thing. So, and then now, innovation like in the sector like is really understanding what are the regulatory frameworks that permit a certain innovation to happen and a certain company to operate in. I don't necessarily believe the government wants to go into the private sector business. Beyond frank discussion housing and now more space to the private sector. It's set alone. But again, I think what's beautiful about innovators is adapting to change. Adapting to change becomes one of your risk management tools. So if you build something that you think you are in a gray area, you need to think on how to adapt it, how do I build on top of it or adjacent to it. Here we know then again, I go back to the lack of the ability to get knowledge, experience. We were fortunate enough to see San Francisco Banquet. So there are 2-3 major hubs that incubators, by combinator 500 startup. So a large group of public and private people went there. So if you see, you think that a lot of innovation happens in the States out of the blue. It does not. It happens because there are facilities that support those innovators to come out. Kolotandu, I think, incubated Airbnb. Kolotandu incubated Uber. Can you imagine now? It did not start from somewhere. So, I think internet face what next? I think eventually we see ourselves as a Pan-African company. That's what we aspire to. I think Ethiopia is a unit because we have a lot of it. Much more intelligent people are much more market and eventually what is that it has to
That's wonderful. When it comes to Nalvat, a regulatory framework, I mean, it's vital. Has like zoo clear standard guideline on the firm good. Sort of some decisions, we just have to make them and live with them. Good. At some point, you become a part of the solution. And now, I know there's that nothing happens overnight. Okay. Kasat and Sar, to have some more time or and Latiaki?
Yeah.
Okay. And Latiaki in Kavalina. We just open for network Nishi. Simen Nigarina.
Smile Banalo. Maybe a Sukalacho, that what out. You contest to get a lot of the ones going on with and now you're helping out. Where do you see cloud adoption in Ethiopia, specifically AWS, Azure, and Namanainet role in Java to Chiladu, the digital 2025 level?
Okay. One more. The last.
So is fintech getting overhyped in Ethiopia? Because a lot of companies they want to join that, the banking so everyone wants to be in it. Is it getting overhyped? Because even Sunshine joined that sector.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So will that actually kill the market later on? Because existing companies also, let's take Ember, Amoli, they only have Emerald has like 1.5 million users ያለው አሞሌ 3 million አለ ይላሉ so is it actually going to be like marketing ይገለዋል later on by confusing a lot of people especially in the day ነገር አይቶ ለማያውቅ industry environment
thank you okay
so the cloud question the need cloud is about investment so how deep type of investors do you have in your own energy? I think the potential is there as a country. And I think it is a key part of innovation on Cairo. One of the reasons the second telco operator license, Dikapa, I think, Mangus liberalized Haderko, and then Yata Sadaderko, is at Nagoch and Dimatu Kamino. So the question for you is how are you going to raise the capital to create a reasonably sized cloud operation? At the end of the day, you have to build the data center. And that's what I know. I think what I think would be a big challenge. From a market perspective, you know, it's a fee potential. You need to solve for how do I raise the necessary resources to build a local cloud. That's I think your ambition was to.
I more of instead of building, I think that seems a huge effort. It's not adapting already successfully on cloud, which is like I'm sure there's a risk of data privacy when I'm sure there's always non-critical
So the debate between public and local clouds is one of regulation in Ghana. Do not permit data to go to the cloud. Because the cloud is now, data is the next frontier of value. So who knows your data becomes extremely powerful. So I don't know any country that allows their data to reside in the cloud unless they control that cloud. Let's be very clear on that. So other applications run the other which one. The non-critical applications which one. Automation line applications. Again, when it comes to transactional data, that is a very difficult thing to do in the cloud. Is fintech hyped? Overhyped. I think it is. Everybody takes it to be very enticing. Because you read it on the newspaper, you have a PESA across the border, so everybody wants it. Then think about it. Fintech is not about technology. So that's a myth. So technology is one component of fintech. Like most technologies, by the way. Fintech requires a distribution network. Fintech requires a lot of use cases. So I think the overhype will subside. Good for the next foreseeable future. I think the hype is going to continue because it is trendy. 5 people can get into a room, start coding it, and build a prototype within a reasonable period of time, and they can show it to you on the phone. That skill will be translated into the other sectors, right? Skill development is really key because they have thought about it, they have designed it, and they have built it. Whether they are successful or not, skill for the industry, I think it will play a very strong part. So, overhype won't
won't that kill the ecosystem, like in terms of consumer user base, like? Yeah.
So when you translate to usage, again you have to have a license, right?
Yeah.
And the license giver, in this case the central bank, I think, is very equipped to filter between what is the hype and what are the real companies. Regulatory because you might hear a lot of hype. License and tradition.
I think at the end of the day, value transaction model, the value creation component kalila, just because so license salacho and it's straight out of ride hailing company kaya, assessment license something like that. ሁሉም successful ናቸው ነው እና ይሄ constant የሆነ operation እና really value creation እና ያ value understood መሆኑ I think those are critical factors ናቸው የሚመጣልኝ. With this we just wrap up our session. Thank you so much for everyone to come, but more importantly አቶ ሙኒር ከቢዚ schedule ላይ time carve out አድርገን wisdom share ስላደረግን I'm grateful. Yeah, Startup Thursday concept ምንድነው እንግዲህ where innovative ideas ከቢዝነስ concept ጋር merge የሚያደርጉበትን landscape መፍጠር ነው እና conversation ማስፋት ነው። ስለዚህ every month event አለ. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. ተጨማሪ የምትለው ነገር አለ እንደዛ ከሌለ ሙኒር የት ያገኙሃል? What is the website? Where do they find you?
So we'll give you an email. I think you can post it.
Okay. All right. If you have any question, I think Saminas would facilitate. Thank you so much for coming. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.